there's no doubt that stress plays a much bigger part in the lives of young athletes today than it did ever before. So much so that it's showing up in very serious ways in the body. And VCD is one of the most detrimental ways that it shows up in the body. And sadly, it's something I'm seeing more and more in my office. So vocal cord dysfunction, or more commonly known as VCD, can be absolutely terrifying for an athlete. Because essentially, while at full effort, the body can become overstimulated from the physical exertion, the mental chatter and pressure that an athlete puts on themselves, and also from the environmental stress, the poor air quality, maybe the chlorination from the pool. And so the body attempts to shut down by closing the vocal cords, not allowing air to move in and out of the lungs, and forcing the athlete to stop dead in their tracks. And while VCD is a complicated disorder that is studied in clinics around the country, there's absolutely no doubt that stress plays a big part in how episodes develop. Now, I see a lot of athletes with this condition. You might be wondering, since I'm not a physician, why these athletes show up in my office. Let me say this. Many of the athletes that we see have very similar symptoms and often fit a personality profile that's referred to in the research as a stress-prone personality, or more commonly as a type A personality. And these athletes tend to be very talented, very hardworking, and they really push themselves both in sports and in the classroom. And a great example of an athlete with this condition is Rick. Rick was a runner from the Midwest, and he was very good. He had an outstanding freshman year with his high school cross country and track team. And then during his summer training going into his sophomore year, something started to go really wrong, and Rick felt his throat as he was running just tighten, eventually where it felt like it closed. And this would happen in his races and his tougher training runs. And he was forced to stop no matter how badly he wanted to keep going. But strangely enough, once he did stop, he could catch his breath and he could pick up the pace again. And after this happened a few times, Rick really began to worry and become really fearful that it would happen again, understandably so. And it often did. And therefore, he began to hold back. And the whole combination of feeling anxious that it was going to happen and about possibly having to stop, and just all the frustration that his times were steadily increasing made for a really difficult summer of training. Rick and his mom luckily really did their homework, and they were able to find a VCD clinic that really met their needs to get a clear diagnosis, which is really important. And they were able to learn really valuable breathing techniques. And both of these things are a must to help treat VCD. The last step was a referral from the clinic to me to teach Rick how to manage his stress and avoid the VCD episodes altogether. So we got right to work and began teaching Rick all the mental training fundamentals. Same skills that I teach athletes who come in to simply add to their training toolbox or get a competitive edge. And we put an extra emphasis on the relaxation and stress management skills, such as progressive relaxation, meditation, breathing, imagery, self-talk strategies. We also really made sure that Rick had a solid plan of how to integrate these skills into his pre-race routines. Rick, like all athletes with this condition, what they really need is a good, strong sense of control over what stressed him out and how he responded to that stress. Once this control was established, Rick was able to start pushing his runs again. Cross-country season proved to be the perfect experimental time for him to really nail down his race preparation and his race management. And as the season progressed, he was able to focus more and more on strategy and just pushing himself really hard during his races, which is what he was so good at. Rick was running some of his best times going into postseason and ended up finishing top 15 of his state as a sophomore. Pretty good. Rick's confidence was sky high, and he was excited about the upcoming track season. Now, while VCD is never cured, Rick now had it well controlled. And so just in summary, there's three keys to controlling VCD. The first is to get a clear diagnosis, because you have to ask the question, is it asthma or is it VCD? And you will probably need a physician to help you figure that out. You have to learn breathing techniques from a skilled speech therapist or speech pathologist. And this is proven to be one of the trickiest pieces of the puzzle. Okay, there are good people out there, but they aren't always easy to find. And then number 3 is to do mental skills training with a sports psychology professional who has experience working with VCD. And with all 3 pieces of the puzzle in place, the success rate for athletes with VCD is excellent. If you have more questions, if you want to learn more, please don't hesitate to reach out. I've got a form to fill out, a contact form, and it'll come right into my inbox and we'll chat.